She thought she had it all, until a shocking betrayal revealed the truth about her husband's dark secret. I don't even know where to start. My hands are trembling so badly that I can barely type, and my chest feels tight, like something inside me is trying to claw its way out. I don't know if I should even be writing this, let alone posting it, but if I don't get it out, I think I'll explode. Maybe if I put the words down, they'll stop festering in my head. Maybe I'll finally be able to breathe again. Or maybe this will only make it worse. I feel like I'm unraveling, like the past few years of my life were nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion, a cruel joke played at my expense. Was any of it real? Did I ever truly know the man sleeping beside me all those nights? The man who once made me believe in love, in safety, in forever? My name is Emily. I'm 32 years old. For 5 years, I have been married to Edward, my husband, my supposed partner, the man I thought I would grow old with. We had been together for 7 years in total. We met at a bar of all places. I wasn't looking for anything serious that night. If I'm being honest, Edward wasn't even my type. He was handsome, sure, but not in the way that usually caught my eye. Too polished, too smooth. But he had this way about him, this effortless charm that made it impossible not to be drawn in. He was funny, easy to talk to, and he had this uncanny ability to make me feel like I was the only person in the room who mattered. I should have known better. Looking back now, I can see it, the way he studied me, the way he seemed to know exactly what to say, how to mold himself into the perfect man for me. But at the time, I was blind to it. I thought it was fate, that kind of serendipitous meeting you hear about in movies. It wasn't a grand, earth-shattering love story. There were no fireworks, no whirlwind romance. It was quieter than that, more insidious. He made me feel safe. He made me trust him. And I did. God, I did. For years, I built my life around him, around us. I let my walls down, let him see parts of me no one else had ever seen. He was my best friend, my husband, the person I thought knew me better than anyone. Or at least that's what I let myself believe. Because now, as I sit here, my fingers cold against the keyboard, my heart hammering against my ribs, I realize the truth. I never really knew him at all. I don't even know how to explain the feeling I've had these past few months. It's like a creeping sense of wrongness, a slow, insidious realization that something is unraveling right in front of me, but I can't quite grasp it. Like watching a picture slowly distort, the edges warping, the colors bleeding into something unfamiliar. Everything on the surface looked fine, normal even. We still went on date nights. We still ate dinner together, still talked about our days, still laughed at stupid jokes. But there was something beneath it all, something festering. It was like he wasn't really there anymore. Not in the way he used to be. Emotionally, physically. It was as if he had hollowed himself out, leaving only a shell behind. He still smiled at me, still kissed me goodbye before work, still asked about my day. But it felt rehearsed. Like he was playing a role, reading from a script. And I kept telling myself I was imagining it, that I was being paranoid, that I was overthinking everything like I always do. But then there was the sex. Or, more accurately, the lack of it. It became rare, almost non-existent. And when it did happen, it was different. Mechanical. Robotic. Like he was just going through the motions, like it was something to check off a list rather than something he actually wanted. No passion, no urgency, no love. Just empty. I would lay there afterward, staring at the ceiling, a pit forming in my stomach, wondering if I was the problem. If I had done something wrong. I asked him about it. More than once. And every time, he brushed it off with the same tired excuses. Just stress, babe. Work is killing me. I'm just getting older, you know? And I wanted to believe him. I really, truly did. Because if I allowed myself to think beyond his words, then I would have to admit that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. So I believed him. Until last Friday. He told me he was going out for drinks with some coworkers. Nothing unusual. He'd done it before. I barely gave it a second thought when he left. But as the night went on, this strange, nagging feeling settled over me like a thick fog. At first, I tried to ignore it. I busied myself with mindless distractions, scrolling through my phone, watching TV, pretending I wasn't checking the time every few minutes. And then I noticed something. No texts. No little check-ins like he usually sent when he was out. No, just one more drink, be home soon, or crazy night, I'll tell you everything later. Nothing. Just radio silence. And that was when the doubt started creeping in. That was when I realized something wasn't right. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was paranoia, or maybe it was something darker, something I had been suppressing for far too long. But for the first time in my entire marriage, I did something I had never done before. I reached for my phone, my fingers ice cold, and opened the Find My iPhone app. The screen loaded slowly, the little spinning wheel taunting me as I held my breath. And then, there it was. His location. Not at a bar. Not anywhere near the part of town he had said he'd be in. Instead, a tiny, pulsing, stared back at me from a different location entirely, a small, dimly reviewed hotel on the outskirts of downtown. I felt something deep inside me crack. At first, I tried to reason with myself. Maybe there was some logical explanation. Maybe his company had booked a conference room there for a late meeting. Maybe a coworker had gotten too drunk, and he was making sure they got back safely. Maybe. But no. No, I knew. The moment I saw that little blinking, that I knew exactly what was happening. The doubt, the excuses, the self-delusion, it all crumbled in an instant, leaving only a sharp, searing certainty. He was cheating on me. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. I grabbed my keys. I don't even remember the drive there, don't remember stopping for red lights or turning the wheel. It was like I had left my body entirely, like something else had taken over, something raw and furious and unstoppable. The next thing I knew, I was standing in the lobby of that cheap, dimly lit hotel, my heart hammering against my ribs, my breath shallow and ragged. I must have looked insane. My hair a mess, my hands shaking, my face pale and hollowed out with disbelief. But I didn't care. I walked up to the front desk, the words clawing their way up my throat, jagged and ugly. Has my husband checked in? I didn't even realize I had already pulled up a picture of Edward on my phone, shoving it toward the woman at the desk. My voice barely sounded like my own. Too sharp, too frantic. The woman behind the desk hesitated. And then I saw it, the recognition in her eyes, followed by something else. Pity. That was when I knew I wasn't wrong. She let out a soft sigh, her expression tightening as she glanced at the computer screen. And then, in a voice so calm it made me want to scream, she said two simple words that shattered what was left of my world. Room 214. I swear I almost threw up right there in the middle of that cheap hotel lobby. The room was spinning, my vision tunneling, my breath coming in short, uneven gasps. My hands clenched into fists at my sides, fingernails digging into my palms, so hard I wouldn't be surprised if I drew blood. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. The thought of being trapped inside a small metal box, alone with my thoughts, was unbearable. At least moving kept me from collapsing. But with every step I climbed, the dread coiled tighter and tighter around my ribs, suffocating me. My whole body was screaming at me to turn around, to get out while I still could, to pretend I had never seen that blinking dot on my screen, never heard the woman at the front desk say those two numbers. Room 214. But I couldn't. I had to know. By the time I reached the door, my legs felt like lead, my fingers ice cold as I curled them into a fist and knocked. Silence. For a moment I hoped, maybe I was wrong. Maybe no one would answer. Maybe this was all some cruel misunderstanding. Then I heard it. Shuffling. Movement. And then his voice, muffled through the door, but unmistakably his. One moment. It wasn't the voice of a man expecting his wife. It was the voice of someone buying time. Someone stalling. Something inside me snapped. The door cracked open. Just slightly. And there he was. Edward. Shirtless. His skin still flushed, his eyes wide, his entire body frozen in that 1 second of sheer panic. He knew. He knew the moment he saw my face that everything was about to come crashing down. And that's when I pushed the door open. Hard. The force of it sent Edward stumbling back, and my eyes scanned the room in an instant, my stomach lurching at the sight before me. There he was. And there was Aaron, his best friend. The one he always said was like a brother to him. The one he spent so much time with, more than with me, if I really thought about it. The one who, in that instant, I realized had been a part of his life in ways I had never even known. Aaron was in bed, barely managing to grab at the sheets, his face just as horrified as Edward's. I had imagined this moment 100 times before in my worst nightmares. But nothing could have prepared me for the way it actually felt. Like my entire world had just caved in on itself. And I froze. I wish I could say I screamed at him, that I hurled insults, shattered a lamp against the wall, went full-on deranged, betrayed wife. But I didn't. I just stood there, staring, feeling the entire foundation of my life collapse beneath me, like a house of cards blown away by a gust of wind. Everything I had built, everything I had believed in, it was all a lie. Edward said my name. Soft. Hesitant. Like he was searching for the right words, like there was anything he could possibly say that would fix this. And I laughed. Not because any of it was funny. God, no. It wasn't. It was the single most painful thing I had ever felt in my life. A white-hot, searing kind of pain that tore through me like I was being burned alive from the inside out. But my body didn't know what else to do. The laugh came out sharp and jagged, bubbling up my throat like something toxic. It started as a chuckle, then grew, louder and louder, until I was gasping, clutching my stomach, nearly choking on it. A laugh so broken it barely sounded human. Edward flinched at the sound, like it physically hurt him. Good. Aaron looked away, gripping the sheets like they could somehow shield him from this moment. And me? I stood there, laughing through the wreckage of my own life. Because I had spent months, years, thinking I was the problem. Thinking I wasn't sexy enough, fun enough for him. Wondering what I could do to fix it. How I could be better. How I could make him want me again. And the whole time, I was just his beard, his shield, his cover, his excuse to live a lie. I wasn't the love of his life. I was his camouflage. When I finally stopped laughing, when the broken, guttural sound finally died in my throat, I met his eyes. And I saw it. The guilt. The shame. The realization that he had been caught, that there was no more hiding, no more lying, no more pretending. But there was something else, too. Something colder. Relief. Like a man who had spent years drowning and had finally stopped fighting the current. I felt sick. I took a step closer, letting the silence stretch between us, making sure he was looking right at me when I said it. You never loved me. My voice was steady, sharp as glass. You loved what I did for you. And he didn't deny it. He just stood there, silent. Because he knew it was true. And that was all I needed. I turned around and walked out, ignoring his pathetic, desperate wait. Please, like I owed him a goddamn thing. I didn't run. I didn't slam the door. I didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. I walked out with my head high because I refused to let him take one more thing from me. Now I'm sitting here in my apartment, surrounded by pictures of a life that was never real. Smiling faces. Happy memories. A love story that never existed. Every framed photo, every anniversary gift, every little memento of us feels like a cruel joke. Because what the hell was my marriage if not a complete and total lie? And if my marriage was a lie, then what does that make me? I don't know where to go from here. I don't even know who I am without him. I just know one thing. I can't be this woman anymore.